Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure, and what you're looking at is a 1985 Honda ATC250SX that has what's known as a four-wheeler conversion. Some people would call it an Astro conversion. I don't necessarily know. This was made by the Astro people, or the Astro conversion was made by High Performance Machine out in California. So I don't know if they actually made this front end or somebody else did. If you read the literature on the real Astro front end, they kind of use Suzuki components. So if anybody's familiar with that, if they could tell me that's Suzuki. If it is, it was made by Astro. To me, these look like they're off a trailer. So I'm not thinking that that's, you know, like Suzuki-like. Anyway, I bought this thing, it'll be a year ago, I believe. Yeah, I think I bought it a year ago in the fall. So it's coming up on owning it for a year. I got it and discovered it needed a lot of love and attention. The starter gears don't sound all that great. The starter clutch isn't that great. The Kickstarter clutch is really no good. The wire harness, hacky. The gas tank, there's a plate that the fuel valve kind of bolts into. That plate is broken, needs a battery, right? So I kind of got it running barely, and I had to stop because it just needed a lot of parts and money, and I really just didn't have everything to put into it. So over the last 10 months, 9-10 months, I've been collecting up the pieces to put it together, so now I'm ready to start. But I just want to talk about this Astro conversion for a second. So back in the old days, people rode these three-wheelers, and some people rode them for enjoyment. Like this 200S really isn't a racing machine. It's just a solid riding all-terrain vehicle. So people rode them for that. Then came out the 200X. And here you're looking at a 200X, right? 5-speed transmission, hand clutch, a fairly light machine, so you could really get out there and burn things up with it, right? You could actually get out there and race. But as time was going by and people were racing these things, they discovered that folks would get tangled up in the back tires. Right, and these things would flip right over if that happened. There was also a certain amount of drunken driving of these things. I even recall a party at my house where on one of the 200S's, a friend of mine hopped on. He was powered by alcohol. Obviously, the all-terrain vehicle was powered by gasoline. Besides the alcohol, Bruce was also powered by testosterone. He was trying to impress a girl there. So he kept trying to pop wheelies with it. And eventually he managed to get one to go up and over. And obviously the bike flipped on his back. Luckily he was there to break the fall. And the bike didn't get damaged because it landed on him. He had enough alcohol, and I guess he was young enough and maybe perhaps quick enough, though from my angle it looked like it got him pretty good, where he, you know, kind of bounced up, brushed himself off, brushed the bike off, attempted to get back on it. I took it away from him at that point, right? I don't need him getting hurt at my house, and I don't need him breaking my stuff, so we took it away from him. He did end up with a cool name. We started calling him Bruce the Crash Test Dummy, or the Drunken Crash Test Dummy, or just Dummy. So he got a cool name out of it. Anyway, they did get a reputation for flipping over, and you could see, like on this one here, the way it was cut off. I mean, people were so worried about them that they would literally cut them or part them out. The last year they came into the United States was 1987. I don't know if they went into Canada for a little bit longer than that. But even some of the 1987s, I think if they didn't sell them by the end of 87, they would part them out. And for a while, you'd be able to find like brand new 350X or 200X or whatever three-wheeler motor on the internet that somebody pulled off the frame because it couldn't be sold anymore. They were literally parted out and the frames were cut up so nobody could ride them. I mean, it was quite a thing. I mean, there were trophies, right? You guys could see that's a three-wheeler. I didn't win that. I bought it on eBay because I always wanted a trophy with the three-wheeler on it. So I bought it. It was 20 bucks. Once again, I didn't win it, but it was, you know, really quite the thing. To get back to the four-wheeler conversion, for a lot of people, they were afraid to ride them. You were able to pick them up pretty cheap. So people came up with this four-wheeler conversion kit so that you could kind of extend their lives. During the same period, they were also, there was a lot of companies, particularly out in California, that were welding together frames so that you could take the engine off your CB350 and put it on to a four-wheeler frame, you know, just hang your remaining components and so forth. Or, you know, basically setting it up so that you could recycle and ride a four-wheeler. About this particular four-wheeler conversion, it's kind of a pig. And the reason why I say that is it's very, very wide. Your typical four-wheeler is about 42 inches wide. That's 50-something inches wide in the front. So that's crazy wide. The second thing is that is crazy heavy. If you were out riding it around, if you brought this into the race, it would be an excellent vehicle to be used for blocking, right? You would be on a team. You wouldn't be able to win the race because it's too heavy and it doesn't maneuver very well. Though you'd be able to go into turns at full throttle with the front end about that wide. But you were too heavy to compete. You couldn't get off the line quick enough, so you'd be in the back of the pack. But it would be useful to have you on a racing team because you could also be blocking, right? If your people, you know, you have the fast guys come around and lap, you let the people on your team by, and for the people on another team, you kind of ride in the way. It's illegal in racing, but you could say you couldn't tell. What I want to do with this thing, and there'll be a few videos, I just wanted to talk about the three-wheeler, four-wheeler, why the conversion, and all this other stuff. Oh, by the way the conversion works is they use the actual neck from the three-wheeler, and then they bolt it up where the motor mounts go. So this one, there was no welding. I mean, quite simply, if I take the top apart and undo those two bolts, I could slide the front end right off. It would be easy. You say, well, could you put it on something else? I don't think it would be all that easy because you got the angle of the tube and you got those bolts. And like if I wanted to put it on this Ninja, right, I don't think the angle or length of the tube is the same. And then once again, what do I put those bolts to? Right, the bolts that go to the engine mounts. I have no front frame to hook them to. Obviously, I don't want to hook them to the exhaust, and I don't want to hook them directly to the engine. Right, so I guess one could perhaps build some frame, maybe. Depends once again on the angle where everything ends up, right? You might not even be close. So maybe if one's handy at fabricating, one could get that Astro front end onto this Ninja, but I don't think it would go all that easily. Yeah, back in the day, a lot of times the companies that would sell that to you would take your front end as a trade-in, take your front forks and front tire and all as a trade-in, because there were people racing things and there were people crashing them, and there was a market for used front forks. Back to this thing specifically, what I want to do with it is I want to bring it back to most of its former glory. I'm not quite sure about all. I want to do something with the lighting and this lighting bucket and the wiring and the dashboard. Right there you have the indicator lights, neutral and reverse. I want to get this straightened out, the key switch I want to straighten out. So I want to do that. I want to make it so that it's a reliable starter. Hop on, set the choke, turn the key, start it up, let it warm up for 30 seconds or so, and take a ride. And it's nowhere near that state. Once again, the recoil sounds like somebody put a bunch of nuts and bolts in a blender, and the Kickstarter, quite honestly, doesn't grab. Oh, the Kickstarter decided to grab. Normally the Kickstarter does not grab. It might grab one or two kicks and then it spins. To fix the electric starter, I got to pull that side of the engine off, which means I also have to undo a motor mount, move the engine, and get that peg off to get that side. Not a crazy big deal, really no big deal, especially compared to working on that Grizzly. It's a piece of cake. Tearing apart the other side to fix the Kickstarter is more work, and if the electric starter works properly, I'm probably going to hold off on that. You know, I'm not a big fan of the Kickstarter anyway, so if I have a reliable electric starter, I just as soon stay the heck away from the Kickstarter. Why dive into something that doesn't need to be dove into? If for any reason this engine becomes unacceptable, there are another couple of volunteers here ready to go on. This one's an 86, and there's another one in the back corner over there that's an 87. You could tell this plate's a little different. Anyway, what I'd like to do is, now that I talked on this one for too long, I'd like to invite you guys back to watch it come back to life. I'm going to try to slow my roll down a little bit and, you know, take the time to do the wiring right rather just wham bam it. Look, it's running now. Right? Perhaps create a little better looking dashboard. Make it look like it's worth something rather than, you know, something the cat honked up from eating mice. So I want to do that. Once again, fixing that is always good. Fixing the electric start clutch, one-way clutch, so we could go through the repairs on that. I don't think I got a tail light on it, so I got to do that. I got to change the battery. I'm thinking of going with LED lighting, maybe two of them. One on the steering, so as you start to make a turn, you can illuminate where you're turning, and one down there on the frame to illuminate the ground in front of you down low. So that's what I'm thinking. I also wish, and one of the reasons why I'm considering making a dashboard, I wish there were 3 lights on it. I wish there was one light to indicate when the ignition was turned on. That's not a neutral light. And then I'd like a neutral light, then I'd like a reverse light. I find that occasionally, especially when I'm working on these things, I'll turn them on and I'll forget to turn them off. If there was an indicator on there, perhaps yellow, to tell me, hey, it's on, even though the blue or the green neutral light isn't on, or the red reverse light isn't on, it is on. So do beware and do shut it down before you walk away. Any suggestions on this? I'm willing to take them. The paint's halfway decent, so I'm probably not going to fool with that. One of the few setbacks with this machine is it is big. With the front end as wide as it is, over 4 foot, 52 inches is what I think I measured it at. At 52 inches wide, it does take up a lot of space. Right. This had to come with the kit, right? This is wider. Yeah, there are no indications, right? These are just car mats. Right, they didn't put any indications, no stickers or anything on the plastic or on that Astro conversion, four-wheeler conversion, to say who made it. Anybody who's old school maybe recognizes the conversion, that it's a bolt-on, not a weld-on, could give me a little more information. I think specifically for the Astro conversion, it was a weld-on, and this is a bolt-on, so it might not be made by the same people who quoted the name Astro, okay? The Astro people is, once again, high performance machine in out in California, Southern Cal. Okay, I want to thank everybody for dropping by to watch and comment and subscribe. Please remember to keep your feet down, your heads up. I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit of history. Please share your comments. Please like the video. And please hit the lottery and tell me you hit the lottery. I'd like to get some good news from somebody. All right, bye now.